Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? Got a brand new episode of Marvel YAP for you guys today. Episode number 89. And we got an absolute banger for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the end of Days season, where Star-Lord is going to be getting a nerf, it looks like. Okay. We're also going to be going over our OTA hopes / copium of what we would love to see happen in the OTA, but we're not talking about Fin Fei Foom, we're not talking about Star-Lord, and we're not talking about Shou Lao, and then we're going to be going over the brand new Daredevil Crimson Twilight season, going over those data mines, which of course can be subject to change, but probably going to be pretty much set in stone. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we're joined by the hostess with the mostest, back from the future, good old Not My Dance. How we doing today, Dance?
Very good. Am I Christopher Lloyd?
Yes.
I'm down. I feel like Christopher Lloyd is like, there's a lot of actors. This is such an aside, but there's a lot of actors that are like really old, and they've been like Christopher Lloyd had like the white hair back in Back to the Future, and that was decades ago. Mm-hmm. And he's still revered as like, I feel like an older guy kind of actor. And so I wonder how long it's going to be until we get other actors that are going to like join those ranks. I guess it's a bit like Sylvester. Like, what's the next one? Sylvester Stallone is like, is he the next one? I feel like maybe that would just join those.
Stallone, John Travolta, potentially even.
Ooh, Travolta's a good shout. Yeah. I'd say Willis, but I think he has like, unfortunately, he has like Alzheimer's, I believe, or something like that. Like, he's not actually doing any acting anymore.
Yeah.
So like that, best of luck for that. And I don't know who else I'd really say there. It's weird.
No,
I love that stuff.
But Dance, it is great to have you back. It is great to see you back on the app, as I did trade you out for another fantastic mustache we have in the Marvel Snap community with Ika, which was last week, was a lot of fun. But we're both back from a bit of a leave. I, of course, had another kid. We welcomed home my second son about 2-ish weeks ago, and then Dance just got back from being out of the country. Yeah.
No, I mean, I said it on the pod, and I'll say it again. I prefer yours to mine, but at the same time, I'm very glad that both of us. It very much worked out in terms of our schedule, and also just whenever, like, it was sometimes broad plans. Sometimes broad's got a plan in life for all of us here.
No, what's really funny is every time I have like a big life event or a trip is when a new Marvel Rivals season or character comes out. So I always miss the first weekend of the new Marvel Rivals stuff because I have something going off, which of course my stuff comes planned before potentially like really finding out like what happens with Rivals, which is just so funny. But it's something that like my wife and I actually joke about. I was like, oh, we're going out of town? Oh, well, there's this big thing happening I'm missing now. But I always,
there you go, of course,
the other instead because it's more
fun. Oh yeah, there's a correct choice each and every. Yeah. Are you how much does your wife play? Does she play any games with you?
No. The only games I would say, which aren't even games, we really play, I guess technically we play the New York Times every single night. Like that's one of our wind downs. We do like the Wordle, we do Connections, and we do Strands. Like we do all of those.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Duolingo is the other one we do as
there you go.
Game. So we do a lot of Duolingo and stuff.
Did you know, I actually have a thing with my grandma. We've been doing it for over a year. But every single weekday we call, and it's weekdays because our weekends can be like busy and we sometimes have other things going on. But every single weekday we call and do Connections together. And actually, when I was in Italy, it didn't work basically because I'm on the other side of the world. The times are all screwy. And so it was like, I actually really missed doing those with her. And I came back and I was like, oh, I'm so stoked. I'm like, I got back and I called her. I'm like, I want to play Connections. Like, she's like, I already did. I'm like, I don't care. I just like miss doing this. It's so much fun. I love. It's also an excuse just because she is like, she's my only grandparent left. So it's like, it's a good excuse just to keep talking with her each and every weekday. This is so okay. Marvel Snap.
Yes. On the app today, guys, we're going to be talking about the end of Days. So we're talking about Storm Horseman of Famine, which came out you see on screen. We have Mother Ascani releasing tomorrow, as well as the Pennistair, which is a brand new skill coming to Grand Arena with Ghost Rider being one of the new champions. Then we also have some OTA Copium, some ideas that we would love to see in the OTA. We are not talking about the big three In the OTA, we're not talking about Star-Lord, we're not talking about Fin Fang Foom, and we are not talking about Sho Lao, because we're
Fin
kind
Fang
of,
Foom's not a problem.
it's like beating a dead dragon, or something over there. To be just so,
I've made that joke before, and you stole that from me.
Maybe
I'm pretty sure I
don't know.
That's upsetting.
And then we're also going to be talking about Crimson Twilight, which is the brand new season in May, which is next week. We wanted to jump and do it a bit like a week earlier this time. So next week we can maybe talk about some deck building or some ideas as we
And there's a double OTA. And I think that's actually the biggest thing here, which I guess we'll talk about it for a second in the OTA Copium, but right, like there is one OTA happening in 2 days, and then there's another OTA happening next week as well. So just trying to plan stuff out, because we typically take a while talking about the new cards. We figured it's probably best to push that to this week and just do everything else. We will be talking about those. Yes, they're technically data mined. I'm saying that now. We'll say it probably again then, but also it's close enough that we haven't seen any changes. But to be fair, some changes do happen right as soon as an OTA happens. We'll be talking about all those cards as if they are going to be the final releases, because we're pretty close to them at this point. But speaking of releases, we did just get Storm, Horseman of Famine, who I kept thinking was Horseman of Pestilence, releasing today, right? The 3/1 objective, end 2 turns in a row with unspent energy. And once you do so, you give your other cards here and in your hand +2 power. And Tuck, when we were getting ready, you told me that you had actually already started doing a little bit of testing with this card. Now, I know we also have some decks that we typically prepare. What were you feeling, though, even before we started talking about that?
So I was playing some Surfer. I was playing more of the Fallen One Surfer list. I've kind of been messing around with prior to Storm's release, which I had like Chameleon in the spot instead of Storm, because like with Fallen One, you actually can get some cool Chameleon value actually in a Surfer shell, which I think you probably could run Copycat instead. But I was running Storm in that slot, and as I was doing testing, I was like, okay, this works well, like for sure, but I'm running Surge in the list, and it makes me not want to run Surge, because you're trying to play off tempo. So I might pour into another 3-drop or maybe a Forge potentially instead in that slot. I'm still like, fidgeting with it. I'm still running America Chavez, and I'm running Agony, because I'm still running, Captain Carter. I'm running Maverick. I'm running Brood and stuff. So having those as enablers and playing those off tempo, I don't feel as bad about playing like an America Chavez or a Agony off tempo as I would like a Surge off tempo. Is like, it feels bad, because you're like always wanting to play Surge on 2, and that's kind of like counterintuitive to what you're trying to do with Storm, since you're supposed to float 2 turns in a row to be able to do so. So that's something I'm still going to be like messing with today. But I think you actually have a Surfer list. It's different than what I was playing. That's Penance Save. That's not Surfer.
We'll talk about that later.
This is the list that you were referring to, which is the Blink Surfer list.
I've enjoyed Blink as a way to guarantee like a big card, right? Because the whole reason Blink is in here is that she's technically just second Star-Lord, second Stun Lord, whatever you call him, right? And this is just a big statted list. You've got a lot of cards in here. You've got a lot of points you can be putting out with this deck, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. I think the biggest thing I'm going to question about this as we actually get this. So when I had made this list originally, I thought it was completely fine. We've now spent a little bit of time already with the card. I haven't actually had as much time to play, but I've seen other people playing it, and I'm realizing I think Shadow King's probably getting cut from this list, is my personal guess. Okay. However, I'm uncertain exactly like what else you're going to be trying to do here, but I like this style of deck. I like this weird version of Surfer where instead of trying to do, Sarah things, because those are getting teched out oftentimes, what if instead, up until we get Quicksand releasing, what if instead you just got a bunch of big points and there's currently no counter to the extra energy? So I like it. It's a pretty fun list. I think that if I did, I'm realizing it, I might Shadow King for Luna.
Yeah, I like Shadow King for Luna, and I still actually like Rogue in this list. I actually got hit with someone stealing my Captain Carter with Rogue. They didn't beat me, but they did. It is a good tech right now for like. There's still a bunch of outgoing stuff that people are messing around with. That I don't hate the Rogue, and especially with what people might be trying to do with with Storm, Horseman of Famine. I think it actually could be valuable. I do like the Shadow King in the sense that it will be, mitigation against, some of these other decks in the mirror. But you also maybe instead of just countering it, you maybe just want to scale more. Or like you said, have the extra energy to do stuff, which I like too.
Yeah, because also he's a waste of a hit as well, potentially, if you are getting that, and that doesn't feel great. But if especially if I'm trying to use cards like Sunlord in here, which means maybe I can get an extra turn trying to mess with the extra energy. There's a lot of options. I think that's my first shout for what I want to change, but I do like this stuff. I also, so you were mentioning you had a surfer list as well, but I don't think you're showing that one off in particular because I liked your other idea.
Yeah, I think actually Zombie Galacti is the better home for Storm. Of course, we do have Surge also in this, but with the Zombie Galacti, you are going to be more often floating energy or playing off tempo anyways to set things up later in the game to get Galacti as that leftmost card, or just to have Galacti as that card that's the only card in your hand. Like, just having a bunch of different options there is kind of the thought process, and like buffing any of these cards with Storm can give you some superior Spider-Man value. Adam Warlock in a Storm lane is really good too, to be able to get that extra power onto Adam Warlock as well to potentially draw more cards. Like, I just feel like it feels more so as a kind of a Zombie Galacti card. Of course, it's a 3 cost, so it works in Surfer, but I don't know if it's like a definitive 12 in either deck maybe necessarily, but I think it's more so at least a 13 or 14 in Galacti opposed to maybe a 14 or 15 in like Surfer.
I've realized that I feel like I want Nico here instead of Forge.
Well, I mean, Nico does give, the extra power or like duplication, but like with Forge, I know for sure I'm getting another +2 onto a card. So it could be Nico maybe instead of like a Surge or something too. Like, there's a bunch
because also Storm is hitting a similar thing that I feel like Forge is, but also it may not, but it may be different because you get the targeting of Forge. Yeah. It's interesting. I like it here. Like, I like this deck in general. I want to know if it's the exact 12 cards because I don't know if it's an interesting one. I don't have any answer. It's just, I'm thinking you got my brain cogs wheels spinning here. Not as much as I'm going to be spinning, really tired of all these dang Gambit Horsemen of Deaths that we're going to be getting tomorrow.
Yeah. With, of course, Storm released today, which is, what we have on screen here, but we also have Mother Ascani releasing tomorrow into Grand Arena, which is a 4-cost, 4-powered Series 4 card with the ability, on reveal, give the leftmost card in your hand +2 power and -1 cost, then copy it. Literally the way this works is your card at first that is your leftmost is going to have its cost reduced and it's going to get +2 power. And then it additionally gets copied on top of that. And originally, I was thinking about this card. I was like, this is not going to be good for Zombie Galacti because, I only was thinking that the copy got the -1 cost and the +2 power. I didn't realize it gets copied after the fact that happens.
Yep. So the reason I'm still going to think it's not the correct card to use Zombie Galacti is because the copy won't have any marks, won't have any cards infected technically, thusly it won't work. At the same time, it's a lot of fun. This is a cool card.
Yeah, cool. It's definitely not like, oh, this goes into Galacti more than I think Storm goes into Galacti more than this. But I do think like this as a card, like you said, for that Gambit Horseman of Death, or for like a Dawkin, or for even like
Dawkin's a great shout.
Surfer stuff. Like, there's definitely a lot of stuff. I mean, Maverick with this, Sholau, with this. Like, there's a lot of like good combo potential with this card, which for it to be a game mode card, I'm glad that it's a flexible game mode card. I'm glad it's not a super niche and narrow, well, you're only playing this in this, kind of situation. So I think that is something I do truly enjoy with this card.
No, it's a really cool card. I love it. The date obviously is incorrect in top right. It's going to be released on the 29th, but it is going to be released in Grand Arena. It's a very cool card. I love it. I'm going to cope and hope that Wolverine Horseman of War, you play this and you get to do 2 versions of it that both would immediately trigger. Potentially, I'll cope there and say it'll be worthwhile. It's probably not, but I'm coping anyway.
With Luna Snow, so you have 2 of them to be able to play on turn 5.
Well, no, you don't even need to do it turn 5. You could wait on turn.
I mean, you could, but you'll set things up so then you have just so much power.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah,
turn 6, right?
I'm down. No, the only reason I wouldn't like that is because you then hit the ice cubes.
Well, you're not guaranteed to hit ice cubes. You could, but then with
my luck, I'm hitting ice cubes every time.
but it's okay. Even if it hits Ice Cube, you just don't feel that lane at all, and you're just chilling.
He's so smart and built different. Thank you, Tucker, for teaching me things.
No,
No, you're good.
Okay, that is the end of days, which this season it does come to a close. We do have Infinity Conquest. We do have a new game mode. We do have an OTA this week, though, Dance.
I was going to say, did you want to talk Grand Arena? Sorry.
We do have Grand Arena. That is true.
We did mention that. We even showed it on screen. It's just, sorry. Like, I do want to talk about that.
Which the Penance this is really interesting because if you guys did not know, your Grand Arena champions themselves cannot be discarded.
No,
so
that's not true anymore.
But now, well, the skills is what you're discarding here, opposed to the champion.
I'm pretty sure it looks like it's changed.
If it's changed, then I can actually play Black Knight in Grand Arena normally.
I'm pretty sure you can play Black Knight in Grand Arena because, there's no. I feel like you're allowed to discard your champions due to the fact that. Like they have a whole discard. Like Black Knight is actually the default deck for the Ghost Rider
but
thing.
But they have cards in that deck for Black Knight value opposed to just
champion functionality update in Grand Arena. Okay. The champion immunity rule that prevented skills and champions in your deck in your hand from being discarded or afflicted or having their cost increased has been removed.
Okay.
So
there you go.
To be fair, but they did say the banned card and location list had the additions of Silver Samurai and Moon Knight in order to stop that the champions from being discarded unless you're meaning to do it yourself.
Okay, opposed to the interaction, opposed to your opponent.
And Black Bolt was already banned.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, your opponent basically can't mill them out of your hand. You're the only can do it. So yeah. So it also, I think it was just like not working all the time anyway. I'm pretty sure I've had my champions get hit with Icebox. But so. You do get Penance Stare, Ghost Rider, who's going to be the new champion. All of them have a bunch of new sick art, by the way. Yeah. We've looked at those before. It's it's a 5-cost skill, so you're never actually playing it because it says when discarded, you just play this. Mm-hmm. And then on reveal, your champion steals 4 power from an enemy card here. It gains movable once. And now movable is a very specific thing where it says, like, it gains movable once. This is basically like Nightcrawler. It gains a Nightcrawler ability, whereas cards like Vision and Phoenix Force have permanent movable, which is a very specific way to think about those.
And then does Penance Stare here refer to where Ghost Rider is, or where the card that discarded Penance Stare was?
So don't know if it's confirmed, but the way I read this is that it kind of just goes randomly.
Okay.
Unless you play it yourself.
Okay.
So if you play it yourself, then it would go to the specific location. However, if it just gets discarded randomly, it'll just, I don't know, who knows what will happen there.
Okay. And it is playable because it says when discarded is like kind of like the flavor text of it. It does both ways. If you play it, the on reveal happens. If it's discarded, the on reveal happens.
Exactly. The only thing is the here, which is a bit strange, but I think it should still be fine. I like this card. It's really cool. I can't wait to mess with it. This is going to be a really fun card in Grand Arena. Tucker, did you want to do a trans?
I can't wait for people just to play Hella. It's going to be very fun. But we do have also some OTA, because I'll be playing, of course, Black Knight. Other people will be playing Hella. But we do have
is that card banned?
OTA
is Stardust on the ban list?
Hopes and dreams. And
Stardust isn't on the ban list.
Yeah, Stardust is going to be the bane of existence as people try new things.
No, that's actually so annoying. I didn't even realize that Stardust wasn't on the ban list right there. That's actually crazy.
Now, Dance, we have 3 cards each here, and one of the cards you talked about last week. And then you have brought up again this week that you would like to get updated, and that is good old Leech here.
Yeah, and actually, I think I've talked to you about this a little bit on the back end as well, just, because we do actually talk.
We do.
Leech makes sense we had a big change right in the OTA, which we didn't cover last YAP, so we haven't really talked about that yet either. But the last OTA had a big change in terms of, I believe it's like not Iron Patriot. I guess Iron Patriot still counted. I was thinking of Chamber, who says 4 cost or higher, and I think Leech actually makes sense as a 6 cost or higher card, where it says on reveal, remove the text from 6 cost or higher cards in your opponent's hand. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. And considering the world that we're in right now, because Leech, when he actually got this text box, the only card that we had above 6 was Death.
Yeah, and they try to use this as kind of like a Hela counter too, because Hela was kind of
Mhm.
predominant in the meta, but people still weren't really running Leech. They were running the old Leech, which the old Leech was toxic.
500 versions of old Leech.
Because you would
I
Leech
hated all
and
of
then you
them.
would blink out Leech, which that was just gross for the things. But I don't hate this quality of life change. I think Leech being able to hit 6 cost or higher, I think would be beneficial because, like you said, we have a lot more cards that are even above 6 cost now, and it kind of might be warranted to be able to be hit. You know, because
100%.
win now kind of cards. Of course, Galactic enjoyers would absolutely hate that. But
I mean, true.
But
Galactic
people
enjoyers
just
would hate it.
running Leech. I don't know if people still just like run Leech for this, but it would be like, okay, well, I got Leech, generated from Triskelion, or I got it generated from like an Iron Patriot, and be like, okay, this is actually feasible. So yeah, I think as a quality of life change, I think that's solid.
And I'm just going to be very clear. I don't want it to hit 5 cost cards. I know it's like, oh, you can counter Shula, you can counter Sunlord, which again, you already mentioned before. I'll say it again. We're not talking about them. We're not talking about Foom either. But also, this does counter Foom. And I think if it hits 5 cost cards, this is an insanely powerful card immediately. And it doesn't need to go that much. It just removing the text from 6 cost cards, I think is perfectly fine. And 6 plus cost cards, whatever. But yeah, it's a really cool one. I like the idea for this. We talked about this a bit ago. What do you got, Tuck?
So I got 2 cards that are kind of handcuffs, in the sense of they kind of go simultaneously.
I do see someone hanging over your shoulder right there.
One of them is Juggernaut. I think there's a world where Juggernaut does not need to have 5 points of power. I think at a 4 cost, I think it's okay to 4 cost. I don't think this needs to go to a 5 cost. But I think this could be either a 4/4, a 4/3. I just feel like for what it does, it's kind of still a win lane kind of card. So I don't hate this potentially losing a point or 2 of power, maybe initially a point of power, because I still think it'd be good at a 4/4. That's card number 1. And then
I was about to say, you said you had a pair here.
Card number 2 is Negasonic. I think Negasonic going to a 4/4, even 4/3. I might even be more towards like a 4/3. With Negasonic, which is also kind of a win lane potential card, because like you're seeing this more so than a Juggernaut with like a bunch of those Super Giant decks, but I don't think Super Giant's the card that needs to be adjusted. I think Super Giant for what it does is okay. I think at the stat line, like it's a card you have to play around yourself, and you have to fight or play that priority for it, and that's the priority drivenness that enables you to do that Negasonic or set up something like maybe another card you might be talking about here in a bit. But I feel like that's not a card that needs to be potentially adjusted. I think it's more so the cards that you can kind of play with it. Like, I don't think Negasonic needs to have 5 power for what Negasonic can really do. I think at a 4/4 and a 4/3, it's still playable and it still functions the same way. It just isn't a guaranteed. I'm not saying it's right now a guaranteed lane winner, but at that 5 power line for what it does, I think is fairly strong for this card.
No, I agree. This is one of the easiest sells, and I agree with you. I think I agree with all the points you just made. I think Super Giant is a good card, but I don't think it needs to lose any more points of power currently.
Yeah.
I also think it's a product of the meta that we have so many dominant 5 cost cards. And end of turn stuff. Like, it counters a lot of the stuff that's currently going on. But I don't think she's the problem. I think that you would look at cards like Negasonic, like Juggernaut, like some others potentially that I'll maybe mention here. All of those cards, I think, that allow you to use that priority or use her ability. And I don't know if the correct word is abuse it, like use and abuse it, but I feel like it kind of is. Just to a powerful extent. Like, that's, I think, where I take more potential issue with. And I could easily see both of those losing a point of power. I like your shout here in particular of this one losing 2. Like, Negasonic going to 4/3, Juggernaut going to 4/4. I like both. But this is called the Copium section. I don't believe it happened.
Yeah, no, I think this is, as much as I want it to happen, maybe it's like we still need more data. But it's like the tier 1 deck, of course, I think it's fluctuated more the tier 1 deck has, but it's like a prio driven deck. There's the Ozymandias version. There's people that have done like the Rona version. The Ozymandias version is what more people have been playing right now. But
I'm interested this is something else that I just wish we had access to, and I understand why we don't. I wish we had access to the actual stats.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best, if that's a tier 1 deck. I could agree it's a very good deck, but I don't know if it's actually that, like, in the general player base, how good is that actual deck? I could imagine that a lot of people don't understand it because it's just an unintuitive interaction the way that Super Giant works with on reveals and just card ordering and stuff like that, as you start off in the game, it took a bit of time for a lot of people to figure that out. And so we understand it because we've played the game enough, but a lot of people straight up don't. And that's a real problem, and I understand it. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't know how problematic it currently is.
I would love, like, Marvel Rivals does that. It allows you to know what the pick rate was for certain heroes across a bunch of different ranks and elos and stuff, and their win rates. I think it would be really cool if we did have access to that, like we do with the Golden Gauntlets and stuff. Guest does an amazing job with being able to coordinate that. Of course, it's different maybe looking at people playing on their phone, people playing on their computer, iPhone, Android, tablet. Like, I wonder if that also makes it more difficult to fully track that data, but...
They have all the data from what so, okay, this is interesting. Speaking of guests, we've talked about this before, and one of the shows I do with him, or I did pod with him, called The Ban List, where we try to ban things. And I actually tried to ban the hiding of this and of those stats. I want those stats out there. And he was against that. Well, I'm not going to go with the full thing. That was a previous thing over there. I don't remember what everything was talked about but I agree, and I would like for that information to go out there. They most likely, I have no reason to believe they don't have it. I believe they 100% do, because why wouldn't they have it? I think they have the information on when someone immediately closes the app after a match. They probably have that information of how many times I queue up into Erisham, lose to a random tech card, and then close that game immediately and don't reopen it for a bit, and then I go play a different game. They probably have that information, and that's a good thing probably to keep track of. So I want this information. I would love to know what the tier 1 decks are. We don't have that, but if I want to try to figure out what decks are really good, I probably am just going to go check out one of your videos in which you showcase some really fire decks, like the Professor X Galactus one that tore up the ladder. Definitely Copium from you, not from anyone else who made that deck. No, Derek would never. No, I don't believe you're putting respect on Derek's too mean to me in my chat. I'm not putting any respect toward Derek. Why would I do that? But I will put respect toward Tucker, and you should as well, by going over to his YouTube channel if you're not currently watching there right now, and subscribe. You make sure you're going to be checking the comments down below. You could give him likes, go give him follows over on other platforms too. He's a really cool guy. He's a cool guy. He got a lot of cool stuff going on. Did you hear about kid number 2? I don't know what the accent is. I'm so sorry. Gabagool.
Thank you for that, Dance. I appreciate it.
Go check out his Twitter. Go check out his TikTok. Please check him out everywhere. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a great man, great guy. He puts out great Snap content, and he deserves all your love and support. But legitimately, I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of really fun decks. I don't know if Sugi Supergiant is the best one.
Now, the next card, though, Dance, as you try to break the fourth wall, is a card that honestly I think has gone a long time without being changed. And I think the change you're thinking of is something I already am going to agree with. But what is this change to Luna Snow that you are thinking here?
I've said it before. I'll say it again. This should be a 3-5. This is it. I think we're good here. I think Luna Snow has come back, and she has landed with a big enough thud. I don't think we can have energy in this game right now, like cards that generate energy, without Luna Snow feeling like just the consistently best answer. I feel like Hope Summers has died, and that's partially because Luna Snow is just, why would I try to play to a certain location when I can just get the extra energy? And the logic for it originally was like, hey, I don't really want to do this because I'm giving my opponent extra energy. Yeah, we don't care anymore. We're just going to use it better than them. Yeah. And that's the logic here.
I think this goes to a 3-5. I'm surprised it's been a 3-6 as long as it has. But maybe it's like, well, Luna Snow sells so much in Marvel Rivals. Why don't we make it so she continues to sell as much in
there you go.
In Marvel
I think
Snap?
Wave makes sense as a 3-6, though. I'm going to say that. I think Wave, it's a harder ask with Wave.
Well,
still, because
I think their idea is like with Wave, 3-6 because you're also making your opponent's cards at the fort cost. With Luna Snow is a 3-6 because Luna Snow, you're also giving your opponent energy. I think that's probably their thought process, but I still think, like you said, I think at a 3-5, this is still very reasonable and still would be really solid at a 3-5. And some of these decks, you're maybe trying to have some of that priority going into later turns and stuff. Losing that point of power might feel potentially more impactful, but we'll see.
I want them to make it so that if you search for a card inside of the search bar, it would show up with like the tokens or whatever that are associated with the card. They could also be searched, or they would like pop and populate. So, for example, if I typed in energy, I don't see Luna Snow. The ice cube. The Ice Cube should technically go under the same search and then be triggered.
I would be down also if you search a card that its token shows up beside it as well, instead of you having to click
Ooh,
on
that'd
the
be
card
cool
and
too.
then click on the token. Like,
yeah, I honestly wouldn't hate that. Like, I don't know how they would have to do it, but that's because honestly, like, it'd be weird if I typed in ongoing and it technically would show up Black Knight, because that wouldn't make sense at that point. But honestly, I could see you taking issue with that, or you as in a general
if it was
person.
ongoing, it would need to show the Ebony Blade and not Black Knight. Like, I wish if you searched it, they were like separate, but they still, if you were to click on the card itself, would
you know what else
them together.
I wonder if there's a way, like, the way I do my OTA graphics, right? Where it's like I put the little card off to the side a little bit. Like, I don't know, to be fair, we're asking for improvements to the collection screen. So I don't know, we're going to be dealing with tech debt for another year at least, probably until they fixed all the bugs. After that, maybe we'll get actual improvements.
Yeah, it might be a minute, but you know, another card that's been on the back burner for a while, Dance. I wonder if you can make Rock Slide a 4/6 or a 4/7. I don't know necessarily if this needs this just yet, because I know we were talking about this kind of, off Yap. It's like, you may not actually Rock Slide just might be gapped at the moment. And with the new Daredevil coming out the way, it's data mined as is, you definitely may not need to do any Rock Slide kind of stuff because Darkhawk doesn't need it, and there's other enablers for it. But I wonder if it's like, well, Terex is still a Series 4 card you have to spend tokens on. Like, if you change Rock Slide to a 4/6, I think we talked about, I think mentioned something about this. We weren't on the app talking about this. That Rock Slide puts
I'll give
rocks into your deck.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, would be interesting.
I think they could take him to a 4/3 and have him shuffle 3 rocks into your opponent's deck. I think that's, I'd like to see that, or a 4/6, maybe 7. I don't know. In terms of his base stats, I think one of those two should happen to this guy. Like, I liked the logic of 4/3 Rock Slide, shuffle 3 rocks in, because as a 3/4, that Terex is a conditional shuffle 3.
Right.
Rock Slide, you make it, it's just, okay, you just do it straight up. And it's pretty easy to get priority early on in the game, especially we'll see that probably with the upcoming Daredevil. So why not just use Terax, because it's just better. You get more points. It also is like 1 less point of power, 1 less point of energy. It just seems much more worthwhile. So Rock Slide should be more consistent, should be better there. I'm down.
Yeah, I think this card, I don't think it has to get changed, but I was like, if I want a card to get changed, I think this is definitely one of those cards on this list. And Dance has...
Speaking of cards that are like, I don't think they have to get changed, but I want to talk about Cosmo. And this is where I'm really coping here. And I'm always down to hear a good opinion. If you have a bad opinion, I don't want to hear it. But if you have a baseless bad opinion, there you go, I'll give you that. But legitimately, I want to hear a world where Cosmo doesn't have this. Whether it's a 3/2, could just be a 3/2, and I think that's probably a reasonable take. But I also want to hear an unreasonable take about what if Cosmo didn't have this type of ability, because I feel like a lot of cards in Marvel Snap are locked behind this problem that they had when they were first making the game, in that they weren't intentional with the cards. We had cards like Spider-Man, who originally just shut off a location. They realized that wasn't fun. A lot of cards just shut off things and then gain power. That's what a lot of cards in base Marvel Snap did. So we had cards like Professor X, who just stopped everything there. We had cards like Storm, who just stopped everything. Like OG Spider-Man, stopped everything. We had cards like Cosmo, who just stops all the on reveals. We have cards like Enchantress, who just got rid of all the on, like cards like all of those. I think are ones that I'd be like, do we actually want them in today's Marvel Snap? I don't even know if we wanted them in the past one, but in today's Marvel Snap, I feel like they are a lot more intentional with cards. Stardust is one that you could be like, okay, is this a good example for a card? I'd say yes, because this was meant as a specific answer to the problem of Hela and other decks that were just cheating out big cards, and you didn't have a way to stop it. They made that card very intentionally after us dealing with so many Hela metas in a row. And then if we look at Cosmo, that's like, maybe again, Cosmo is fine. Maybe it's because back when the game first started, they had all these ongoings and they needed to have a way, or on reveals, so they needed to have a built-in answer. But I don't know if it's still healthy. And I think that even if this isn't the correct card to get changed, Storm, Professor X, stuff like that, I think are all cards that should be, in my opinion, looked at and discussed of whether or not these are actually okay.
and I hear you. I don't think Cosmo is warranting a change. I think if Cosmo was a global ability, like honor reveals don't work.
Fair.
That's more so where I would be like, okay, this is a 3 cost, like Luke Cage, where I literally shut
Luke Cage.
down an entire.
Oh, that's the other example.
Thing where, but this being a single lane interaction, I don't think is warranted. I think we're seeing an influx of Cosmo because it is a answer to a lot of stuff that people are doing. And it's like Shang-Chi was an answer to a lot of stuff that people were doing and was able to completely obliterate and swing a game because it destroyed all 10 or more powered cards. I don't think Cosmo is in that same vein. I think, yes, it is a feels bad because it blocks the on reveal, it blocks the combo I'm trying to do, but like, if there's no way to have a means to, interact with a sandcastle, like, then it's like, okay, I go into this matchup, I just lose. I just genuinely lose the
that's
entire
fair
thing. So like, maybe if Cosmo is too damaging, 3-2, maybe. I don't think it needs it. But like, I hear what you're saying. Like, you're also bringing up a lot of good feels bad like situations. And Cosmo, because of just how predominant we have a lot of on-reveal cards going on, I think that it's only single lane. I think it's okay. Since it's not global like Stardust, but Stardust is a 4 cost. This is a 3 cost. And looking at like going all the way back to something like Zabu. When Zabu first came out, Zabu was a 3-2 and made all 4 cost 2 less, but had to be a 3 cost to do so. Ravona is a 2 cost that enables 0 power or less cards, or 1 power or less cards. But it's a different because the way those 1 power or less cards are, and it is also global. But like the way that they were looking at 3 cost and 2 cost is something that they continued to harp on for a while when it looked at enabling cards opposed to counter cards. Where this is a counter card that isn't global like Luke Cage. Now we ask for Luke Cage change all the time. And I know you guys in the comments you talked about, well, if Luke Cage gets changed, I'm quitting Snap. And it's like, that's a very interesting reason to quit Marvel Snap.
Personally don't have, if a card got deleted from the game, even if it was something like my Boy, I wouldn't leave the game. I'd just be upset. Maybe people are being over dramatic because it's the internet. But I think also, like you said, with Luke Cage, and I'm also arguing Hazmat. I'm against both of them right now, which is I think a fun take. I feel like I'm the only one currently against both of those cards, and I'm enjoying that place here. But who is that? Who's a villain who just says screw everyone, or even like Punisher just saying screw you to everyone? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Punisher, I guess. Well, Punisher's not to everyone. Punisher's only to, like, bad people. He's an anti-hero. But maybe
True.
Screw you to everyone.
I mean, he tries to...
Well, you know what? Actually, probably, like, a Deathstroke, which is not Marvel.
I like the Deathstroke shout, actually, yeah. 100%. But yeah, so it's like, I feel like both of those cards as well are just cards that say, these are design restrictions. These are a bad place for the game to have originally existed in. And I don't think nowadays this is where the game should be. I think the game should be in a... I think we should be trying to create more abilities, because I don't know how we're supposed to do more cards that do affliction things without Hazmat just being better. I don't know how we're supposed to do cards like that. And I don't know. Honestly, if you nerf a Hazmat somehow, you could even get a world where Spider-Man's or Spider-Woman is reasonable, which is probably a crazy take. But like... Spider-Woman existing at the same time as Hazmat is a wild choice. Similarly to, what was it? Juggernaut in comparison to, like, I'll argue Arrow.
Yeah, I think these are some...
My argument can get weaker there, I think, at the end still, but...
interesting arguments.
Going back to the initial point, Cosmo feels bad. I don't think it's a style of ability that should be in the game. At least it feels like one of those styles of abilities that were a problem in the base game, and they just kind of left it alone for a while. I don't know if we need that.
I just disagree, and I think Cosmo is something we need in the game. But that is what we got for our OTA Copium / Hopium for today, as we now are going to go ahead and preview...
I'm going to real quick stop. I'm stopping. I'm just saying real fast that legitimately, as we are recording, we just got an announcement on the Second Dinner Discord. Thursday's OTA includes an update that will weaken Star-Lord. They did not say anything further.
And that's because they have the bundle in the game.
So there's a bundle right now in Marvel Snap. that is has a Star-Lord. Or Sun-Lord, right? Now, the funny thing is, if you read this exact post verbatim, it says it will weaken Star-Lord, and I'm going to make the joke that they're actually nerfing the 2/2 Star-Lord here. But actually, sorry, I just realized like that I just got that notification, so I was like, I know we have to pause for a second and show this off because that's actually a big deal. Good thing we didn't talk about it because apparently something's happened, at least to him.
Okay, fair enough. Our requests have been heard, and Star-Lord is getting adjusted.
Confirmed.
Yeah, confirmed. So there you go. No hopium, no copium. Just the cold, hard facts. And now we're going to be talking about the brand new season that is going to be releasing next week. It is not going to be a good old Storm over here. It actually is going to be the Daredevil's Shadowlands that we're going to be talking about over here. That is the brand new season coming on May 5th, 2026. Daredevil Shadowlands is the Datamind Season Pass card that is a 2-cost, 3-powered on-reveal card with the ability on reveal. Shuffle in 3 demons. Period. When you draw a card with 6 or more power, Daredevil's Shadowlands gets +2 power.
It's a very simple card, and I honestly think it's a pretty great card. Because I don't think there's a big deck building ask in terms of what you want to do with this. You just got to put big cards in there, and that's it. So you just got to use like this card just seems great. I don't see the detriment of this card is you're right. You shuffle in cards. You're shuffling in, not even dead draws into your deck though. And that's the biggest thing. They aren't dead. They are 6 powered cards. They're 1/6. That's fantastic. And this guy gains +2 each time. I'm gonna be honest. This feels like a pushed card that should. This card was previously data mined as a 2/2, and actually previous OTA had him change to a 2/3. I'm pretty sure that's a mistake. This card feels like it should be a 2/2.
Yeah, no. I think this card is really solid. I think something that we're continually getting pushed more and more each and every season, which is another reason why we're talking about Cosmo, another reason why we're talking about Negasonic, is we are getting a lot of prio-driven cards, which this is like almost an unintentional prio-driven card, but the way that this card's going to be able to scale to enable you to have prio is something that I don't think we can really overlook. Because yes, drawing demons, there are 6-power demons. Yes, it is deck bloat potentially, you're getting when you're adding demons to your deck. But looking at like what a lot of just the common stat lines we're using for some of these like super giant decks, which maybe you're wanting to draw one of these tech cards instead, but like super giant 6 power, debris 8 power. Like there's like that's like just a couple examples there. Like of course Ozymandias. And
I'm gonna give you a different one.
Okay.
Wilson Fisk, the card entering the Super Premium Season Pass. And that's like, I'm not even, like, I think we're still talking about this card, but also, I think both of these cards that we are talking about, both Shadowlands Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, are extremely beneficial together. Yep. Wilson Fisk is a 5/9 that says, cost 3 if you have the highest power among cards in play. Now, this is very specifically worded. And my logic, and I said this back when this card originally had the ability, cost 3 if you have the highest power card in play. When we first saw that ability with Toxie on this cast, I said that works for ties. The logic is no. Toxie, Toxic Soul King. God, I'm coping. Toxie gets changed. But the logic there is okay. But even if your opponent has the same highest power card, you still have the highest power card, but your opponent does as well. And then this wording got changed to be this, or it says cost 3 if you have the highest power among cards in play, which makes me believe the ties work for this card. And if that's truthful, fantastic. I love this card. And I do think that Wilson Fisk and Shadowlands Daredevil are going to do so much together. These feel like a natural pairing because you can play Shadowlands Daredevil, and then if you draw Wilson Fisk, it's a 2/5. Or King Eitri, with the Shadowlands Daredevil, activate it, and then you draw another card. You have a 2/7 that Wilson Fisk is definitely going to be only 3 power for. These two seem fantastic and amazing together, and considering that these are all of the cards that are releasing at the start of next season, it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, no, I think this card is going to be good. I think it's boring. I do think it's kind
100%.
of it's a boring, and I mean like Mockingbird is kind of still also a boring card, but I think for what these decks already are doing, of course, leaning more into Wilson Fisk here, which is the Datamine Super Premium Season Pass card. By the way, this is almost an immediate plug-in to those Supergiant decks where Daredevil would work
100%.
as a plug-in. This is an almost immediate.
I don't know if
plug-in.
I would do that.
I'm not saying like you 100% play. Like I think it could.
Although to be fair, Suki does get triggered with Daredevil. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good shout.
Yeah, because with Daredevil, as long as you're drawing cards,
and your rocks.
Yep. Well, your rocks, you don't.
Or sorry, not your rock,
rocks.
but like your rock enabler cards.
Yes.
Like with like debris would trigger Daredevil, and it would also be. I don't because you could technically play this card for what it's worth. One of the best parts about Fisk, it feels like, is that because he goes to 3 power or 3 cost. You can play him on turn 3, the same turn your opponent would try to stop you with Mobius, which means you can try to get around that.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're typically trying to play this card on turn 3, but if you play it later, final turn of the game, if I've got Ozymandias on, let's imagine play that on turn 5, and then I just throw Debris and Wilson Fisk on the board, I'm happy.
Yeah, no, I think Iron Patriot gets a huge buff with this card too.
Yes.
I think some of these Iron Patriot decks too, going back and playing like a Hydra Bob, just so you have a bigger card on the board, or like even a Nightcrawler going into like to potentially like what your turn 2 like play. Like turn 2 plays are going to be even more important with Wilson Fisk being added into the game, especially looking at his play rate. Is just something that we're going to be having to look at going forward. Like tempo already has been so important with Snap with all the Supergiant kind of stuff. But I think this next season, tempo is going to be even more just like noticeable.
Thinking about Shadowlands Daredevil in particular, one of the things that's I feel like going to matter most with him is I think this is, it's a weird thing, but I'm going to say this is akin to Cerebro. Because if a card that is 6 power, so let's talk about Luna Snow, right? If she gets hit to a 3/5, you can't run Luna Snow with Shadowlands Daredevil anymore and the deck changes. Similarly with if for some reason you're running a Cerebro 3, right? And then a card gets hit to 2 power, you can't run that in Cerebro 3 typically anymore. So you're going to have a lot of situations like that with Shadowlands Daredevil that I'm really interested in how this will actually go as time goes on, how the deck evolves over time. Because if a card is too bad or too good, like we now have to think about, right? If a card goes to a 3-cost slot, you have to think about it in Surfer. If a card goes to above 6 power or drops below 6 power, you have to think about it also in relevant, or like not relevance, but in relation to Shadowlands Daredevil, which is a really interesting shout there as well. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. I know we're talking about both of them together, but I think that they do have a lot of overlap. There's some differences, but I also think there is a lot of overlap, and I like the conversations around both these cards. They're cool.
Yeah, Cassandra Nova is eating this beginning of
the
next season. I also...
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, Cassandra Nova is a gross counter to this. And I also want to note that Thanos also is potentially a good deck for Daredevil as well. With the stones that can draw cards just in general, because you're still drawing cards that could potentially enable
Adam Warlock.
Daredevil. Adam Warlock is a good example as well.
Because if you get the trigger with the draw, right at the end, like that final turn draw and the game bit, maybe your opponent doesn't care about letting that Adam Warlock go off. But if they do let the Adam Warlock draw on that final turn, and then it draws a card with 6 or more power, that works, and that just buffs up your Shadowlands Daredevil, and you turn an Adam Warlock draw, which typically doesn't matter on the final turn of the game, into +2 power. That's cool. Yeah, I like Thanos. I like these card drawers. Crystal Copium. Who knows?
Crystal Copium.
Honestly, why is Crystal like a 3/4? Actual question. I know they're terrified of card drawing, apparently, but if they're that scared of Crystal, who gives both players a card draw, why is Luna Snow a 3/6?
Because extra energy is not as important as a card draw.
Which there's probably a good basis for that, but it's also, I think, enough of a basis that I think she should be 1 less point of power than whatever Luna is.
She should be a 3/5.
Actually, she should probably still be a 3/4 because Luna Snow needs to go to 3/5. But yeah, so currently she should be a 3/5. But yeah, so those are all the cards that are releasing at the start of the season.
No, those are not, Dance. We have
no, they are.
We have another card releasing at the start of the season, and that is going to be Dance's alleged favorite card of the season when we looked at this originally with Toxic Soul King, which is going to be Karen Page, the brand new Series 5 card that is a 4-cost, 5-powered, on reveal, Give one of your 1, 2, and 3 cost characters +2 power each.
That's about all to say on this card.
Yeah, Dance isn't so high on
Dude,
this card.
I had such a big high on this card, and I've crashed down. I'm negative on this card now. Like, as high as I was when I first read this, as low as I am now.
Well, you know what, Dance? You know I'm very, very high positively and just absolutely enlightened by? Your content, which whether you are watching it on Twitch, on YouTube, or looking at it on Twitter under the same name, Not My Dance, you're going to be finding some absolutely fantastic content, whether it is a deck guide where he thoroughly breaks down his plays, as well as why each card is in this list, which he also goes on to his Twitch, which he also plays the gameplay itself. You can watch that live and react to it. Try not to backseat. You could backseat, but Dance is so good himself, he doesn't necessarily need the backseating because he plays absolutely phenomenal.
False entirely.
When it
I suck
comes
at this
to
game.
Snap. Also, make sure you check out his YouTube where he does also break down the data mines. He goes over the OTAs. He goes over patches. And he also posts this info on Twitter if you guys want to find out like the specific time when he is posting all of these infos, these videos. But also, Dance makes a lot of graphics for a lot of these people in the Snap community, including myself, whether it is the thumbnails for Buy or Bust or the thumbnails for the YAP. He also does a lot of the graphics like you guys are looking at right now here on screen. You're probably seeing on other people's YouTubes as well. Dance does an absolutely phenomenal job and puts in a lot of effort into this game and deserves all the love and support for all the love he provides to the community to enable us to be able to have all these awesome graphics given to us by Dance, for the people, and for the Punisher War Machine, which is the brand new Series 5 card releasing on May 12th. That is going to be a 2-cost, 2-power card. When drawn, mark one of your empty locations. Objective, win that location, +1 max energy. I will slow it down for you guys. It is a 2-cost, 2-powered card.
Not like me reading that card.
When you draw Punisher War Machine, it marks one of the empty locations, means a location there are none of your cards at. And then you have an objective now on the Punisher where you have to win that location. Punisher has to be in play as well for the objective to proc. And then you get +1 max energy for the rest of the game. It is not a repeatable ability in the sense where it cannot be prodigied. It can't be necessarily frigga unless you have like a very weird situation where you frigga the Punisher on turn 3 and then a Tillion happens and then you draw Punisher again. That would be the only way it would work that way, but that's like not gonna happen. Or if you blink it out, maybe, or lockjaw it out would be the only way that would happen. But that's a very just weird. Or no, you can't lockjaw it out because the objective has to interact at the end of that next turn or the end of that turn, and then if you blink it out, the objective already went off. So no, it doesn't work that way. You'd have to somehow get a copy of the card and then redraw it, which is not impossible, but. It's
extremely unlikely.
Extremely unlikely, but this is a 2-cost that gives you +1 max energy if you meet its objective for the rest of the game.
Yeah, big shouts that this is a dead card. It reads like a dead card if you do have all locations full. Which let's imagine even just a Central Park. I think that just kills this card, assuming you didn't have it drawn by already. This card feels really good, really powerful. I hate the fact that I'm going to say this is just also a good Erisham card because you've got the extra energy already and it's going to be pretty easy for you to fight for a location at some point because all you have to do is win the location that Punisher marks. He does have to be on the board for it, which is a notable bit, but the mark happens whenever. And then the mark is my issue. I dislike the fact that if you are a new player coming into Marvel Snap, which I'm making a big assumption that there are new players entering Marvel Snap already. If you are a new player entering Marvel Snap, which I actually did have, when I was in Italy, my little brother-in-law, he saw me play Marvel Snap and he wanted to play as well. He had questions about animations and stuff like Red Hulk. Cards like Galactus First Steps, cards like Punisher War Machine don't explain what they do. You do not know as a new player that you need to fight for the Herald of Galactus First Steps location. You do not know as a new player that you need to be worried about Zombie Galacti infecting all the cards on the board. You do not know as a new player what in the world a marked location is going to look like. Because I do assume this is going to mark it for both players. That just makes sense. You don't know this stuff, and there is no explanation of this stuff anywhere in the game. And that is a I cannot overstate how much I dislike that. I dislike
you don't see it unless the card is like played. You can click on it, but like prior to that, like you're just seeing this animation happen. You're like, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. As a new player, again, big assumption new players are entering. But if I'm a new player, what does that mean? Who knows? I don't know. I'm just like, okay, cool. There's a weird thing on the board. I guess. Sure. They marked it. All right. Maybe my cards get destroyed when they're played there. There's like, I don't know. Who knows what that means? I don't. And that sucks. That should not be the way the game exists. I don't know that when I see my opponent get like a little spinning wheel at the top right of the game, that they actually have Shang-Chi Master of the Rings in hand.
You know what would be cool? You know how like we get the first time card is played,
100%.
If they had that also first time animation appears.
I agree. No, that's exactly what it should be. Because if you don't have that, you don't know what those things mean. And that sucks. Cards like Kang, cards like, what is it? Also cards, I've already mentioned the other ones I think I'm really biggest feeling of. Dormammu as well, you can mention. I don't know what those cards mean. I don't know what those animations mean as a new player. And that is a bad game decision. And that is my biggest issue with this card is that we're adding another one. Spoiler alert for a future episode of the ban list if you watch that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's fair. I think for newer players, that's definitely more difficult. Now, also, like, not at the same time. I mean, content creators talk about these cards. There'll be a dev video that potentially talks about this card, but that's also assuming people watch that content. Like, you're not.
That's the biggest.
To watch that content. So, like, I think
because there are a lot of people who just play this game on the toilet, and that's it. They don't consume content. They don't have any. All they do is they're like, okay, cool. I could play a couple Marvel. I can make my Marvel characters fight each other when I take a crap, and that's all they care about. Straight up, like that's it.
That's true. But this card dance, we think it's gonna be a pretty good card.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I do think it's
cool card.
As much as I take issue with this very specific bit. I do think the actual ability, the stats, and this feels like a really cool card. I wonder how good it will be because of just the fact that you do need this on the board and all that stuff. But I do like the way that this card is going to probably enter the game. As much as I talked about all the previous stuff, I do really think it's cool.
Yeah, no, I think this card's going to be good. The next card we have is going to be a game mode card. We do not know what game mode it is just yet, but it should be releasing on May 14th unless something changes like tech debt. And it is a series for...
I heard someone say that they were data mining these. Which one? Sorry, I didn't mean it. I shouldn't have interrupted you. Someone said that they could potentially data mine these and figure out which game mode is coming out. I'm gonna try to check that while you talk about this card.
Which this card, by the way, is a very interesting card. It is Akari. It is a 4-cost, 12-powered card with the ability. You can only play this where an enemy is afflicted with negative power. So it is another one of those 10 or more powered cards, 4-cost 10 or more powered cards that has a limitation. This one being your opponent has to be afflicted with negative power in order for this to work. Which, of course, this does have some enablers for it. I think everyone's like, well, do you play this in Ajax Affliction? And I honestly think you don't. I think you could play it in Ajax Affliction, but I think this is more so like a mid-range kind of Affliction card. And I think the biggest enabler that I have for Akari is actually going to be Rocket and Groot. As one of the biggest enablers. Of course, Cassandra Nova, Scorpion, Silver Sable and stuff. But I think Rocket and Groot, what I like about that being an enabler for an Akari is that you can also move Rocket and Groot. It is not just solely positioned into one lane. So you would allow yourself to afflict potentially cards in 2 lanes, potentially in order to be able to do Akari things, or even something like a Spider-Punk, which is a card you can move to also afflict cards, but you'd want to maybe have like a Ghost Spider or like a Madam Web to do that.
I was going to say Spider-Punk is...
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to do
You also can run a Prowler.
That is true. Yes, Prowler is also... Prowler, you could also run Clea. Clea also, if you can get those. Winter with Tomb.
But the better thing is, you can run none of those, and I could just put a War Machine in my deck.
That's true. Yeah, War Machine, you just have a 4/12. You can play wherever because of War Machine, which also is not a bad blink target as well.
True. So I was looking so I looked it up, and so the reason I was told is, I'll give a shout out specifically to Slifer, who has been in chats before. They've said that what you can do is you can check the variants that are releasing at that time and see where it says that they're releasing, because they typically have like some sort of tag associated with them. So on May the 14th, it says that we have a few cards releasing into Sanctum, or from Sanctum. So I'm assuming, based off data mines, this would be Sanctum Showdown. And scrolling down to the card that might be happening at the end of the month, I have an idea for what I could talk about for what that card might be that's releasing a Series 4 then. So it's actually a really interesting thing, and I do want to actually give proper credit. Like, thank you. That's actually a really good bit of information. As I try to do these graphics, I will be updating them and doing graphics with that bit of information from now on. That's a really good shout.
Yeah, no, shout out to Slifer there. Do you have any additional thoughts on Akari?
I think the biggest things I like Spider-Punk and Rocket and Groot. Spider-Punk, Rocket and Groot, and Prowler. I wonder if there's like a third move affliction card you could throw in there potentially. I don't know what it would be. Because I don't think you can do Kingpin or like obviously Scream. Maybe you just put in a regular affliction card.
I mean, you could do Scream.
Maybe, but it's also like this is
Big Dumb Idiot Scream.
I wonder.
You remember that?
Yeah, that's true. But also you needed Arrow as a big thing there. Arrow gets that's the thing we miss in the Copium. If Arrow goes to 5'10", let's talk Scream, Kingpin, Akari.
And that's I think I mentioned
with Arrow
2 yaps ago would be Arrow going back to a 5'10", which would be it might be nice.
No, straight up, it's interesting card. I like it. I think that the next card we're going to talk about is a card I'm actually a little bit lower. Oh, wait, no, we're not talking about the next one that I thought about. Never mind. I thought Lady Bullseye was this one. Muse is sick. So Muse, Tuck's done all the other introductions. I'll do at least one here. Muse is entering the game as a Series 5 card on May the 19th into seasonal Series 5 snap packs as a 3-cost, 3-powered card with the ongoing ability plus 3 power for each location where one of your cards has been destroyed. This card seems incredibly cool. I love the idea of this. It's the easiest way you enable this card is if you don't want to think about it, you could potentially just throw a Squirrel Girl, Killmonger, and all of a sudden you have a 3/12. And that's literally all you need for the bare minimum. Yep. But that's probably not just all you're doing there. You're probably trying to do more things with this card. You can run, this could be a Dormammu buff, a Weapon X buff. There's a lot of really fun things to mess with this card. I like it.
This is one of the best mid-range destroy cards we've had released in a very long time. What this really allows you to do, like, it's so funny that if Weapon X does not get like an additional buff kind of around the time Muse comes out, like it really is going to be like, why am I even running Weapon X? And the main thing is because Muse is ongoing. Muse being ongoing makes it like a much better card than Weapon X. Of course, Weapon X has a higher ceiling than Muse does, but if you destroy a card in each lane, this is a 3/12. Weapon X you have to have on the board. It starts off as what? It's a 2/3 now, or because it's not 2/4 yet, right? It's a 2/3 at the moment.
2/3, yeah.
And to be able to get Weapon X to 12 power, you have to destroy 3 cards, which gets it to a 2/6. Of course, it's 2 cost to 3 cost, right? And then you also have to destroy an additional 3 more cards. You have to destroy 6 cards in order for Weapon X, while it's on the board, in order for Weapon X to get to 12 power. Whereas with Muse, because it's ongoing, it just is a much better card than Weapon X. Like floor and ceiling wise, it's different. But I think this card is an automatic into the mid-range kind of destroy shell. I think Moira X really likes this card too. Because I'm thinking like final turn with Moira X, like you're able to play down 2 Muses, potentially like extra deaths and stuff too. Like if you have 2 deaths and 2 Muses, you are dropping 48 power onto the board at the end of the game, which maybe you're like, well, Fin Fang Foom can do that. Star-Lord can do that right now. But we just saw Star-Lord might be getting a change. We don't know what Star-Lord's change is. Star-Lord's going to continue to do that? I don't know. But I think like with Muse, I think this card is going to be really good for that destroy mid-range. And I think I like the destroy mid-range kind of shells a lot more too, because I feel like you can do a lot more skill expression with those decks than like classic destroy. And classic destroy is a lot more kind of, I know what's going to happen. It's more predictable and being able to set up, opposed to Muse, because I'm assuming the way Muse's ongoing works, your opponent isn't able to keep track of what 3 lanes, or if you've destroyed cards in all 3 lanes. They have to keep track themselves if you've destroyed cards on all 3 lanes to be able to...
I assume you would have to as well.
I mean, I think
is weird.
Muse probably will check, retroactively, kind of how like Wild
True,
Child
yeah.
in your hand checks to see if you've discarded or destroyed a card. I think Muse will check to see if you destroyed cards on every single lane. But I think
see
this
it, yeah.
card, I'm very excited for this. I like playing more so that mid-range destroy. Of course, I like classic destroy too, but I think mid-range destroy is easily one of my comfort decks. And I love just, Moira. I'm a huge fan of the Moira Destroy. And like this also with like Moon Girl. Like I've been playing like Victoria Hand Destroy. And I think this is another
that's fun, yeah.
good like card for that Victoria Hand style Destroy. So I'm very high on Muse here. Probably higher than you are. But I'm excited.
We'll get to our ratings at the end.
Yeah.
I think Muse is going to be a really cool card. I've got no issue. Honestly, I just have no issues with him. I think he's perfectly acceptable, honestly. Yeah. Just a 3. It's just a conditional 3/12 that does ask a legitimate amount of you. Mm-hmm. It's not just put me at the middle location like a Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It is, you have to set stuff up with it, which is cool. I think it's really interesting. I was trying to think if we have any other like ongoing destroy cards that synergize with ongoing and destroy other than him and Null. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Wild Child. Okay, good. Yeah, so you could do, I'm trying to think, could I run Mystique in that deck?
I don't think you can run Mystique, but I think there's an interesting world where this could be potentially like something you do like Phantom X things, or this could be some. I mean, this.
I like Phantom X, yeah.
Phantom X, and I think this also, like you said, like with Dormammu, I think Thanos Destroy loves this card. I think even something like this might be where Morgan Le Fay, you're like, okay. We have.
All right, now he's coping. I'm over. I'm out.
Coping,
you lost me.
Like, there's Lin Lee Morgan Le Fay right now. There's and then
True.
Like had that like with music. Like, there's a bunch of different ways. I don't think those are the primary ways by any means whatsoever. I do think Moira X is definitely one of the best cards for this, and X23. I think X23 is also an amazing card for Muse decks, having the extra energy and the way it can bounce to other locations. Like, I don't know. I'm
going to say Squirrel Girl still is the number one, but I do think that those are close shouts for the next bit, but I do believe Muse is just number one.
Debris also is really good.
Debris is a little bit better, but also the problem is she isn't putting a rock in her lane. So you have to make sure you're destroying a card there before. Maybe you don't care though.
I mean, it's a big body. Like my Weapon X deck that I was playing that actually performed well was using Debris, using Rhino.
I want Datamine Tombstone.
That's another card that is going to really help this card a lot.
Datamine Tombstone, just so y'all know, is a 2/3 that says on reveal, destroy your lowest powered card at each other location. Yeah. Yes, that will be fantastic. Like that makes Muse immediately a 3/9, which is a big, so we'll see how this goes. I love it. I love this card. It's sick. I want to mess with it. It's not number one for me, but that's not anything against it. It's just like there are a few cards coming out next month that I'm really stoked about. How stoked are you for Lady Bull? I don't know how good Lady Bull's is.
So like my sidebar here is I want to speak this on the record. Next week I want us to have a more conclusive section where we just talk about objective cards. I want us to do that. I think you may have done that on the ban list, but I think I want to add that as one of the kind of like potential notes before we go into next season. Because looking at these seasons comparatively, I think it's almost kind of apples to oranges. Just the way that these cards I think are going to land. But
yes,
that's a sidebar. Lady Bullseye is a.
I'm gonna actually give before you get us off the sidebar. I'm gonna give us the word now.
Okay.
I'm just gonna. It's not even a word. Use objective. Talk about objectives. And if you make it to the end of the episode in particular, if you made it this far at the very minimum, use the word objective and put it in a comment down below. Whether that be your thoughts about objectives, just the word objective, or however you'd like to do it. Give us your thoughts about that. We'll try to, I don't know if we're going to bring up your comments on stream, but like we will talk about all this stuff because I think objective is we're basically going to reach the end of it. We technically are going to get another objective card next month that we already talked about with Punisher War Machine, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about with objective as we've now had a couple of months with it. So let us know.
Yeah, comment that down
Sorry,
below.
I like you had a good aside and I wanted to make sure we built on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think we'll bring up a couple of them on the app. So if you guys want to see your comment featured on the app, make sure you guys do comment. And if you're not commenting on the app, comment in our Discords too. But Lady Bullseye is the brand new Series 5 card coming out on May 26th at that 2 cost, 2 powered stat line with the ability On reveal, afflict an enemy card with -2 power. Period. Repeat on a different enemy for each of your unspent energy.
This is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm gonna be honest, I think it's probably just fine. I don't have anything really against this card. I also just don't really think it's super exciting. It's kind of just like, this is a 2/4 is where this card is. Right? Because at the first afflict, which is a big thing to note, it actually took me a second to realize, the first afflict always happens where it's a -2. And then it repeating is the special part of the ability. So if you're trying to go through those, if you're looking through all the other like honor reveals, those repeating abilities are going to happen. I don't know how much I really care about it. Like, how much energy do I need for this card to feel worthwhile? This is an interesting card potentially for the high evolutionary affliction style of deck. But do I need a lot in there? Do I need to do a lot of those types of things? Is one afflicted me enough? Do I want 2 extra energy? Like, the best part about this card is that it can use the energy that is also used by cards like Cyclops, like Sunspot. Cards like all of those cards that care about unspent energy, they can use it as well. And that kind of makes it a resource that everyone distributes equally, which is a really cool thing that they've done in Marvel Snap. I don't know how good this actually will be, though, in practice, with all that in mind. What do you think about? I see your gears turning.
So, a deck I used to play that I hadn't really actually thought about till you were mentioning, and I was thinking about like the repeating abilities. I used to play Chase's Big Green Monsters deck, which was a Moon Girl Affliction High Evo deck, which you would Moon Girl to duplicate your Abominations and your She-Hulks. And using that with Lady Bullseye, there's a world where you play Lady Bullseye. Let's say you haven't, like on turn 5 after you've Moon Girled, and you have 2 Abominations, you have 2 She-Hulks.
Yeah.
And so then you're floating 3 energy after Lady Bullseye. So you're already doing the first affliction, and then you're hitting 3 additional cards with -2, which would make an Abomination a 1 cost. And then you could play your She-Hulk. You'd have a She-Hulk, a 3-cost She-Hulk. Like I wonder, and then like you have Hope Summer and stuff and things too. Like I think High Evo, certain versions of High Evo like this. The Abomination mid-range kind of shell likes this. And something I remember you talking about while we were like looking at these cards kind of like with data mines on Yaps a couple back is like, this is a good enabler for Akari. An immediate kind of affliction for Akari. But I think the High Evo decks that like this are the Abomination High Evo decks for sure. And I think you would play She-Hulk in those decks as well. In order to kind of get some of that.
Probably, yeah.
It's
I like it.
Like the ceiling for this card is potentially really high. The ceiling, like the max you can hit is potentially high, but the floor is pretty good, but what you're going to hit on average is not going to equate to like the highest roll possible, because the highest roll possible is just absolutely like too greedy kind of thing. But I think also what it boils down to being able to hit, let's say you're trying to hit that ceiling, Magic is still very popular right now, and Magic is still really good. Like there are cards that are doing location changes. People are running Scarlet Witch, people are still running Merlin, but Magic Limbo isn't getting turned off as often as not at the moment. So we'll see how this is late into May when this happens. If this is more of that High Evo Magic style deck in order to get some of that extra value with Lady Bullseye. And like, are you doing Superior Spider-Man things? Are you playing Hope Summers? Like, if you're playing Hope Summers, this definitely is a better enabler for this card here. Is playing that like Moon Girl, like my idea, like playing that Moon Girl into Lady Bullseye. Like you play Moon Girl onto Hope Summers, so then you have 6 energy going into turn 5, and then you play 2 Lady Bullseyes out. So then it's like way more like Affliction potentially across the board. Like there's a bunch of different ideas for this card, which I think in theory it's cool. Like that we're having a cool ability like this, and it's like regular Bullseye with that -2 affliction. But the practicality of this card is more so like, where is this truly gonna fall in the general scope of the meta, opposed to in the theory crafting of what you could do with this card.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest question I have with it, because I feel like one of the things that we've talked about with a lot of cards is the potential of a card. Mm-hmm. And there are really high potentials for a lot of the cards we talk about, because that's cool and that is good design. But how much of that actually happens in the game? How much of that is actually going to occur? We have, you're right, there's a really high potential for Lady Bullseye, but is that practical?
Mm-hmm.
We also haven't even talked about the ability of like copying this card, which potentially has a lot of real shouts. Because even just a Grandmaster is an interesting talk to the talk right there. Cards like what is it? You can also talk about Silver Surfer First Steps, who lets you use that proactively. Firehair, yep, another great one. And we didn't even hit the card that is getting weakened, Sunlord.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one. And well, maybe it doesn't work anymore with it. I don't know. We'll have to see how that lands. But we've got a lot of options with all these cards, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they all go. But I think the fact that so much of this card is built into the potential for it makes me more scared about it, because we've had a lot of cool cards that have really cool potentials and they land flat.
Yeah.
So I still like the card. It's honestly probably still better than most of the releases that we got this season.
Yes, it is.
But also, it's super based on potential, and that makes me feel like when we're gonna rank them all in a second, because I think we got one more card here. It's probably lower in the list for me. I think it still has a lot of options, but it is because like it's just potential. I don't know how to feel about it until we actually get our hands on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The next card we do have is a game mode card. That is
Team Clash. According to data mines. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, it says so. According to the data mines, it says Team Up. But that is also where he has a variant that is releasing. He has a variant releasing into a source called Team Up. I have to assume that's Team Clash.
Okay, and I think they called like team ups in like the comics, like their storylines, like team up, kind of like arcs of the comics, which is cool. But this is a Series 4 card releasing on May 28th, subject to data mines. That is a 4-cost, 3-powered card with the ability, give the next card you play power equal to this card's power.
I mean, I don't know if I care about this card. I've had people who have talked to me and they said this card is better than I think. I maybe believe that. I just don't know. It just doesn't feel good. I feel like we have Maverick, and I feel like that's all I'm asking of it. I know oftentimes I will make jokes about comparing, these cards aren't similar. You shouldn't be comparing. I should not be comparing Archangel, Horseman of Death to Elixir. They are different cards. They do different things. But I'm instinctively making that same argument here, which is potentially very incorrect to do in the first place, with Stick versus Maverick. Why do I care about this card if we have Maverick? What does this card give me that I can't do already with Maverick? I don't want to Wong this card. If I wanted to Wong a card to put points onto it, I probably would be playing I'd probably be doing Shuri. There are a few rare situations in which I want to play Stick more than Shuri. But why do you want points of power on those cards anyway? I feel like I don't.
Well, another thing we want to note here too is like with Stick opposed to Shuri. Shuri, you have to play the cards back onto that same lane you just played Shuri. Stick, you can play that card onto a different lane.
I guess.
Instead of Maverick, you can play Stick final turn and be able to get that power onto another card you played. If you don't have your cost on the board, you can't play Maverick and then get Maverick's power onto another card. So Maverick is kind of a dead card in that sense where you can't have the activate go off. Now, I understand as well, if I have a Maverick on the board that is already buffed, but now I have Stick to do stuff, am I going to stick a Maverick? Probably not. Now,
that's afraid. I would like, nope, I want that on the... Is he going to stick a Maverick?
Now, at the same time...
I just wanted us to ruminate on that. Thank you.
I think, I get what you're saying. And I definitely think they are different, because with the Maverick, you can hold that power till you have a later turn to do something, where Stick, you immediately, it's the next card you play that gets the power of Stick. Also, this is 3-cost Maverick. Let's say Maverick at some point does get changed. If Maverick goes to a 4-cost, then it's like, okay,
or loses another point of power. Yeah,
loses another point of power. You're like, okay, then there's definitely more of an argument. Like, I think there's still an argument, just because Stick is not a dead card to play on the final turn of the game. Like, Maverick can be a dead card to play unless you have Jocasta. But it is a 4-cost opposed to, the 3-cost, and like you have other ways to like buff things up, like with Stick. I mean, Stick could be cool to like play into a Captain Carter lane, like the same way you would like a Maverick. Like playing Stick final turn into a Captain Carter lane into like a Mr. Sinister. Like you can't do that. Like, and I think that's kind of like
the final turn is the best argument for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's the best argument in general. Like the other ways, like Maverick has other cards that can really enable what's going on, because you can have your Maverick on the board and then show Lao Maverick, so then Maverick buffs another card. You can't have Stick on the board, show Lao Stick, and something happens, because show Lao will get the buff from Stick already, opposed to being able to. How does
the Agony work with this card?
So
would it do the new version of power, or would it do would it do 3 or like the 6?
You mean like if you play this onto an Agony?
Yeah, if I play this onto an Agony, does the next card I play get 3 or 6 power? Because even if you activate Maverick, I think he still takes the power. He takes whatever power he will be at the time that he is like at that next turn. So for some reason, if he gets the next point of power, does that happen the same way?
It only is +3 because the on reveal happens before the merge happens.
I believe that. I don't. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be honest. I'd also believe that, because
the way Manspider works.
But it also
Manspider takes the card played and then Agony happens as a separate interaction, because the on reveal for Manspider happens before the Agony merge happens.
Yeah, but but let me argue Shuri here. If I play Shuri onto a card, or if I play Forge, actually, let me go Forge here. If I play Forge, he doesn't like giving the +2 immediately. He only gives it when the next card is played. So does it check then? Because he doesn't check for the next card to be played to see if it. Well, Stick. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say here?
Stick flips over with the on reveal before it merges.
No. Yeah, but again, if I activate Maverick before a card gets merged with him, how would that work?
And that's the difference between activate and on reveal.
Is it just that? Like, that's fine. But I also still question it, and I want to know. I'd believe if you were correct, but I'd also believe if it wasn't true. And so until we have our hands on it, I'm questioning. Does that make sense? Where it's like, I don't know. Again, you could still be right, but it's also, I feel like there's enough of a question that I still have with this card, and it's not until it gets confirmed, because they can't talk about these cards until they're officially out. I don't know if I want to know how these definitively work. Also, Stick doesn't look that old here. Does he? Like, I feel like he looks, honestly, like I feel like they gave him extra wrinkles, but honestly, he kind of looks like a teenager. I kid you not.
He does look younger, but the on reveal is always going to happen before the merge happens.
Yeah,
because like the Maverick.
No, the on reveal always does.
Because the Maverick situation you're talking about as well is a different situation. Like, you're talking Maverick into an Agony. Like, Maverick still has to be played on the board until he activates.
Well, so that's not exact. If you activate Maverick and then for some reason he gains extra power in between you playing your next card and you activating, he would give the modified power to that card.
Yes.
So,
but
Stick?
That's because it's activate. Because activate holds until the next action happens. On reveal happens, and then the merge happens after the on reveal happens.
I'm going to argue this holds as well, because it doesn't give those points of power don't exist until the next card is played. Similar to Maverick, right? Because you cannot tell me that those card points of power are anywhere but in the ether. So are they checking then? Or do they check the second the on reveal happens, the second the activate happens? Or do they check when the card's actually played? Which I know that you're still arguing that bit. I think we're going to run this into the ground. I don't have any issue with leaving it alone. I will wait.
I think, but
until I need to see it.
That'd be a huge buff that makes Stick way better if it works the way you want it to work. But
you're telling me they would release cards that have inconsistent wording with themselves? Nah, Marvel Snap never.
But I think it plays more so like the Manspider plays. Like, Manspider merges with the last card you played, and that's the on reveal. And then when it merges again, it's when it doubles.
Yeah, I 100% could believe that. Do you believe that, if we're talking about ranking these cards, do you believe that Karen Page is the absolute worst? And I'm going to write that down for both of us here.
Yes, Karen Page is the worst card of the season.
Dude, for what it's worth, if there's a Placy player, I think it's like that Namora deck, but she's the 15th card in a Namora deck.
If you're missing a lot of the Series 4, Series 5 cards, you have Karen Page.
And you have Karen Page. I feel sorry for you. I'd say that you should try to argue for a refund.
Yeah, not great.
I think Stick, not even just because of the argument that we just had, I think Stick is my next lowest. I think Stick is my number 7.
I have Lady Bullseye as my number 7. I think Lady Bullseye still has like a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
But I like what Stick can still do potentially, and like the enablers that we kind of just have in the game still to be able to do some stuff with Stick. I think I like more. And Luke Cage.
That is fair. Yeah, true. Luke Cage exists. Yeah. There's a lot. I'm interested in Lady Bullseye and what she does. I do think she's the number 6, like my number 6 personally. Again, nothing against. It's just this is I think just where she lands for me personally. She is my number 6 though, and it's like I feel like there's a bit of a gap between my my 7 slot and my 6 slot, but it is she feels interesting and honestly probably about on par with the most of the cards this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of the cards this season. Someone said it in my Discord. A lot of the cards this season feel like Weapon X.
That's fair. That's fair. Did you say Stick is your number 6?
Yes, Stick is going to be my number 6, and then my number 5 is going to be Akari.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We have the same bottom 3 for us. Karen Page is the exact same. Our 7 and 6 slots are swapped for ourselves, but I'm going to agree with you 100% that Akari is my number 5. I think that it's like the downside of this is that I have to run Affliction.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that lands. Or War Machine, maybe that's a better place, but also why am I running a 4-cost in a War Machine deck? That's the real question, I think. But if I talk about the next one, true. This is, I think, where I'm going Punisher War Machine, though, because it's not even anything else. It's just this is my 4th. Like it's a cool card. You've got a lot of options with it. But if I'm arguing the rankings of everything I'm ranking here, just in my own personal enjoyment or personal tier list, however that works, this is my number 4. It just barely misses the cut of the top 3, but this is an extremely cool card. Not even mentioning the art.
Yeah, no, I think this will be my number 4 as well.
All right, respect. I like that. Yeah, we're matching. We typically keep our tier lists like it's been a while since I think we've had very vastly different tiers. Of cards. So I mean, we got the same top 3 with I've got or is it no? We have Shadowlands Daredevil, Wilson Fisk, and Muse. All 3 of them as our top 3. And I'll say my number 1 last. I won't even say my number 2, but my number 3. Honestly, it's Muse. In that I think it's a sick card. I think it's going to be really powerful. And even though I think there is a good argument to be made about Wilson Fisk just being a boring card, I also think this is just kind of like it just goes and destroy. Sure.
Yeah, that's fair. My number 3 though is Wilson Fisk. I know Wilson Fisk honestly, it can be a 3/9, which is nothing to scoff at. You know when you have.
But this could be a 3/12.
This is a 3/12 potentially. This is a 3/9 if you only destroy cards at 2 locations, and it's ongoing. You don't have to look at the power of what you have on the board and the opponent has on the board. Of course, concurrently if it's the same, potentially it might work. But I think I'd like that the ceiling for this card is higher, and it's a 3-cost with a higher ceiling than the 5-cost.
I just thought of a very dumb. Okay, my number 1. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I just thought of a very dumb card to use with it. My number 1, I don't know if it's going to be yours as well then, is it actually my number 1? Actually, it's maybe my number 2. You know what? Actually, it's my number 2. Also, my number 1's Wilson Fisk. Is Muse your 2 or your 1?
My 2. Wilson Fisk is my 3. Muse is my 2.
Yeah, I realized I said that wrong.
Daredevil Shadowlands.
Shadowlands. So that's my number 2. And I'll give an interesting shout here for Shadowlands Daredevil. And I'm going to be wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Magus.
Well, the thing with Magus
is that he doesn't draw it or doesn't add them into the deck. But he still gains +2 each time. And I'm going to cope Adam Warlock. So it's either drawing extra cards or it's gaining extra power for the 2-cost slot. How much copium? I told you I was a copium take.
That's a crazy take.
Dude, it's copium. I already said, I'll admit it. 100%. It's cope.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel.
Let a man cope.
I don't know how I feel about that one. That you can keep that matches to yourself, and do what you want with that. I no, definitely not.
Okay. Well, I hope you all want to give us a comment down below about objectives, whether that just be the word objective or what your thoughts were as a whole on the last couple seasons of whole objective cards. I know, again, Punch for War Machine is an objective card that we are getting, but I really would like to know, and Tucker and I both want to know, what y'all think on objective. How did the mechanic land? What did you like? What did you not like about it? Let us know in the comments down below, because we'll talk about those and bring up some comments about that next YAP, as I think that's going to be a really good discussion to have.
Yeah. Also, let us know down below what your guys' rankings are for the new cards this next season. Are completely wrong? Are there any synergies that we are forgetting? And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been real. God bless, and laters.